Welcome to BootSpy. My name's William, and today we're reviewing the Taft Dragon 3.0. I'm going to talk about the leather quality, sole quality, fit and sizing, durability, and ultimately whether or not this boot is right for you. Let's get into it. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Today, as I said, we're reviewing the Taft Dragon 3.0. This is Taft's first Goodyear welted boot, so I wanted to give it a shot. I took a look at this and I was like, man, this looks like it's meant for jungle adventures. I'm gonna be honest, the closest I've ever come to a jungle adventure is like taking a whiz in a rainforest cafe after a couple beers, but you know, who knows? I might go into the jungle one day, so gotta have a pair of boots that fits the mood. To clarify, this is the Taft Dragon 3.0. This is the latest, newest version of the boot. Their more recent 2.0 had a different sole, a couple different things in the midsole as well, and some different leather options. So I'm covering the new updated 3.0. For the Dragon 3.0, the sole and leather both come from England, and then the boot is constructed in Spain. So this is a 100% European-made boot. A couple quick specs on the Taft Dragon. It is a Goodyear welted boot, has a Dainite Ridgeway sole, cap toe service boot with no speed hooks. It has a fairly thin, slim silhouette, so I would really compare this to something like the Thursday Captain. They're pretty similar. The Captain is a little bit more rugged looking, while this is still a little bit more refined, a little more sleek. And then of course the Captain does have the speed hooks, whereas the Dragon does not. So these boots are often compared with one another, and you can bet I'm gonna put a video up pretty soon comparing these two boots together. But for the rough version, you're basically getting a sleeker, more European style boot with the Taft Dragon. As for the leather quality, this is a Waxy Commander leather, which is basically a waxed suede with some burnishing on the toe. It comes from the CF Stead Tannery in England, which is really well known for making very interesting leathers, very unique leathers, and that is where Taft sources all of their leather for their boots from. The leather quality on this is really, really nice. I've really been enjoying wearing it. It's pretty thick, pretty sturdy, and that's created some issues in terms of blisters and that break-in period. So it's had a little bit of a longer break-in period, but there's so much oil and wax on this suede that it is waterproof. So it is a 100% waterproof boot. On the upper has a Goodyear welt, so that's not completely waterproof, but I actually did run through a puddle and my feet did not get wet at all. So it's pretty close to waterproof. Let's just say it's really highly water resistant. When the boot arrived, it had some nicks and scratches in the leather, though I kind of think that's intentional, or they're not really avoiding it. That's part of this really roughed out look that you get where the boot arrives and it's already looking pretty rugged, pretty rustic. One thing I really have enjoyed about this leather is that it's quickly picking up a patina. I mean, I've only worn this boot 10, 15 times, and you can already see parts of the leather that are starting to pick up that patina, parts around where my pant cuff kind of falls. That's starting to burnish naturally already. So it's creating a really interesting, unique pattern that fits my foot and looks like it's kind of a broken in boot right away. I'd say if you're looking for a more formal boot, something that you can shine up and take out on formal occasions, this is not the boot because it has that waxed suede. It's just gonna break in. It's gonna look very casual, very rugged. I love that style. I really like how this is looking now after about 10, 15 wears. But again, important to note, if you need something sleek, shiny, formal, this is not the boot for you. Looking at the sole of the Taft Dragon, it does use a Dainite Ridgeway sole. This is a departure from the Dragon 2.0 and the 1.0. Those both used a Dainite studded sole, which is the most commonly known, when people think of Dainite soles, that's really what they're thinking of, is that classic studded sole. After wearing this around, I do think the Ridgeway sole is basically better in every single way. Has more grip, has more shock absorption, does better in wet weather, but simply I just don't really like how it looks as much. I think the Dainite studded sole is a lot more classic, and I do kind of think that the Ridgeway is a little bit strange looking. When I'm looking back at pictures of me wearing these boots, there's no way you can tell what's going on the sole. You can't tell that it's got a funky design other than the boot print, but still I prefer the classic a little bit more. It's important to note that the insole and midsole are kind of a cork leather combo. So you have the leather footbed, leather midsole, and there's some cork padding in there that really helps add a little bit of shock absorption. So your foot will break into that footbed slowly over time, and it features a steel shank. So the Taft Dragon 2.0 had no shank, but on the 3.0, they've gone ahead, added that little bit of extra arch support with the steel shank. That makes it just a little bit more supportive overall. Looking at the fit and sizing of these boots, they only come in full sizes and only in D widths. So for me, that was perfect. I'm normally a size 10.5 in most sneakers, usually a size 10 in boots. So I picked up the size 10 in the Taft Dragon, and it has been working out fine for me, fits perfectly. But I can see running into some issues if you were a size 11 and, you know, going a half size down, you'd probably have to try the size 10, see if that worked. If you have wide feet at all, I don't think this works for you. If you have wide feet, you could try ordering, you know, if you're size 11, try ordering a size 11 in these boots, see if it works out, but they're pretty narrow, pretty slim, which I really like because they're sleek, but at the same time, they're narrow. So if you have wider than average feet, then your feet probably aren't gonna feel very comfortable in this boot. As I said, I've worn these about 15 to 20 times, probably gone about 20 miles in them. The break-in period did take a little bit longer. It does have this full grain leather lining, which adds durability and comfort in the long run, but in the short term, that's an extra piece of leather that your foot is kind of breaking in. So I did have a pretty gnarly blister on the back of my right heel. That's usually where I end up getting blisters on my boots. And that definitely happened here for, I'd say, the first 10 miles. The second 10 miles, a little bit of soreness, not too bad. But at this point, they're pretty well broken in. And like I said, one thing I've noticed through that period is this has already developed a pretty nice patina after those 20 miles. So you get that consolation prize. It's a little bit longer of a break-in period, but you end up with a really sweet, unique looking pair of boots at the end of it. Looking at alternatives for the Taft Dragon, there's really only two major alternatives. The first one I mentioned earlier is the Thursday Captain. Now, the Thursday Captain is about $100 cheaper. It has basically the same quality leather. I would say that the construction quality is better on Taft than it is on the Thursday Captain, but you know, there's a give and take there. Leather quality is just about the same. They're both Goodyear welted boots. There are vastly different color options. Thursday Captain, you can get a lot more standard options. So if you have a more conservative wardrobe or something like that, you know, the Captain has a lot more options for you. Whereas the Taft Dragon has some way funkier options, which is really cool too. So, you know, definitely look through them both and see which one you like more. I like that these are waterproof. That's really cool. And as I said, some of the fine details like stitching density and everything like that, it's a little bit better on the Taft Dragon than it is on the Thursday. But, you know, I think there's also a case to be made for the $100 cheaper that you would get with the Captain. The only other alternative that I see to the Taft Dragon is the Red Wing Iron Ranger. I really like that the Iron Ranger is 100% made in the USA. The build quality on this is superb, and I would say maybe even a little bit better. The price is the same, but this is definitely a way more rugged boot, whereas I would pick the Taft Dragon pretty much 100% in a sort of city slim jeans type of outfit. But if you need something that's just like really rugged and beefy, then the Red Wing Iron Ranger is a good choice there. It is a lot more bulbous, especially in the toe, and then it has these contrasting eyelets with the speed hooks. That makes it a little easier to get on and off. So overall, the Taft Dragon is way more dressy, and I do think it pairs better if you kind of have that slim jeans, cuffed jeans sort of style. But if you have a little more rugged workwear, American Heritage style, then the Red Wing Iron Ranger is a better choice there. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and also hit that subscribe button down below. Both are super helpful for the channel and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, put your best boot forward.